Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's hope my microphone is working. I am at Tunnel Springs Park again today. Let's take a quick 360 around what I'm seeing. See these foothills up there? These foothills I would really like to go hiking up, but not by myself. Anyways, I'm just gonna go on the flat here. And I'm looking at the Antelope Island, Great Salt Lake, and okay. So today, I'm going to talk about, I'm going to do dog stories, maybe throw in a couple other pets possibly, and I'm going to call it the tragic and traumatic dog stories of my youth that kind of shaped me. Oh my heavens. I'm going to start out with the most traumatic. It was probably the most traumatic experience of my childhood. I'll try to tell as briefly as possible, but and then expand from there, depending on how much time I have. I want to try to keep it under 15 minutes. But anyways, when I was probably anywhere from 10 to 12, my brother, Paul, who is now passed on, tragically, brought home a dog for the family. I guess somebody gave it to him and he gave it to us. He came home from Dixie College in southern Utah, and he was transporting this dog, and he said the dog's name was Arlo, named after Arlo Guthrie, the son of Woody Guthrie. And then in I think it was the early 70's, Arlo Guthrie had begun to make a name for himself as an artist, and came out, I don't know if it was his first album or not, but Alice's Restaurant, remember that? Going into Los Angeles, looking for a couple of keys. I have no idea if those are the lyrics. That's something that rhymes. Anyway, so this is Arlo. So our dog Arlo. And Arlo it wasn't necessarily my pet, but as a young boy, he became my pal. And one day in the summer, probably around 1971, maybe 1972, my older sister, who's 6 years older than I, took the dog with her a couple of miles away to walk to her friend's house, who lived across a busy street, 3,300 South in Salt Lake City, which was I think it was 2 lanes going up and down, and quite a busy street. But let me just say, in the early 70's, I rarely would see a dog on a leash. Rarely would see a dog on a leash. The neighborhood dogs just seemed to wander aimlessly, and that was part of at least in Utah, that was the culture, Dog just roamed, and hopefully the neighbors would take kindly to it and whatnot. So following this, I guess, my sister took the dog, not on a leash, okay, and I'll tell you why later, but I think this was a holiday, perhaps Labor Day, some holiday in the summer that was probably not the 4th of July. I'm thinking it was probably late summer, probably Labor Day. And she took this dog, I don't know if it was early in the morning, but in the middle of the day, she took this dog across what we called 33rd South. And then late in the day, somehow we got word from somebody that knew Ann, maybe somebody from our church or something. There had been terrible accident. The dog was crossing 33rd South. The dog was hit by a truck, and there was two men in the truck, and they picked up my sister and the dog and carted them off. And now it was starting to get late. At what point we called the police, I don't remember, but hours had gone by, no word from them. It was a holiday, so we were theorizing they maybe went to a vet, or something like that. But it was a holiday, so I think my dad called around everywhere, and all the ones he contacted anyways all the vets were closed. And then the neighbors started to gather. It started to get dark. Still no word from Ann. And I thought, I don't know what anyone else thought, but I thought she was kidnapped. And that was the end of my sister and my dog. And that was so traumatizing. The whole neighborhood, everyone came out of their house. There was cop cars in front of our house. All the neighbors had gathered. Probably other church members from other streets had gathered. And oh my heavens, what happened to my sister? And then probably at 9 o'clock at night, maybe 10 o'clock at night, dark, this pickup pulls up with two men in it and my sister. I can't remember if she was crying or not, but then we got the full story. And so they hit the dog. And the dog, I guess, was still alive at the time. And so they said, let's take the dog to a vet, get in the truck, to my sister, get in the truck. Well, they picked up the dog, and they're trying to do a good deed, these men. And they went around the reason it took so long is they went around from vet to vet to vet to vet around the whole town, and they were all closed. I think finally they found an open vet. I do believe, because I don't remember that the dog was with my sister when it was probably dead by then, but so anything, all was well. And then later in the week, I can't remember how long it was, I got this story from my dad that I doubt was the truth. Knowing me as a father, is probably what I would tell my child. But I think the story was that the dog had died, had contacted gangrene and had died. What I really think happened was they called my dad and they said, well, I don't know, maybe the dog was already dead. I do not know. But if the dog was alive, I'm sure he said, oh, maybe we might be able to save it, but it's going to cost you thousands of dollars in operation fees, and we may or may not be able to be successful. And he probably told them, just put the dog down. But to me, that was not the story conveyed to me, right? And so I got the story that the dog had died, and it was devastating. I think, hello. I think this is the first time that I had confronted death in life. Maybe I'd been to a funeral, I don't know. But it was devastating, and more than the dog, for those hours while my sister was gone, we thought she was for sure kidnapped, taken somewhere, killed, left for dead, or whatever we thought. So I remember going into my room and just praying my heart out. And that prayer was answered. She came back, thankfully. So that was the first one. And the rest are shorter. That's how many minutes? 9 minutes. Okay, quickly. I can't remember if it was immediate, but after, kind of as a replacement, I can't remember how soon it was. My dad took me down to the Humane Society and we picked out a dog, a little black furry dog that I named Gabriel I was a big Los Angeles Rams fan at that time, and the famous quarterback of the time era was Roman Gabriel. And I think he even appears on like Bewitched and stuff like that. He was appearing on all kinds of things. But so we named him Gabriel and called him Gabe. Furry little, tiny little, mutt. Looked like he had some poodle in him, but not the kinky hair. It was curly hair, but not kinky or anything like that. And old Gabe, like other dogs in the neighborhood. Well, he was a cute little dog and my favorite little buddy. But as was common, we didn't let him go out and roam all the time, I don't think. But this was a winter's day, a cold, snowy day, and he either got out or was let out to go pee, and then he got hit and killed by a car, and I can't remember how we found out. That person probably, I think when my parents went out to look for the dog, that the neighbor came out and told them. But so that was this next tragedy. Oh, Gabe. And I can't remember if this is a sequence or what, but before my memory, or when I was very, very young, baby, maybe 2 years old, we had a collie dog, and I think we named her Lassie. How original. I don't know, but I heard the story only. What happened to Lassie who disappeared? I never knew. But years later, I found out from my older siblings, and I'm not 100% this is sure, but they found Lassie in a nearby park with an arrow through it, dead. Can you believe it? Oh my heavens. Of course, no leash, a roaming dog. So that was traumatic. Then I'll just tell you about a neighbor dog. Neighbors directly behind me had lots of dogs, or one at a time probably. But the most famous one, the first one I remember, his name was Tuffy. Tuffy, I think, got his name because it loved to chase cars. And Tuffy, I swear, was getting hit by a car about once a week. He was Tuffy, a little Tuffy. I remember him wandering the neighborhood. It was a pleasant dog. We loved Tuffy. I can't remember how I found out, but of course he was hit by a car. So that was another one. Oh, and then most recently, this is not in my childhood, but my two daughters had brother and sister black Shibas, little black Shiba dogs, and we loved them. Oh my heavens! And one of them got a tumor. It started to grow on her leg, and it started to grow and grow and grow, get the size of like a cantaloupe, or at least a grapefruit, but maybe even the size of a cantaloupe on its arm. And they took the doctor. It took the dog to a vet, and we could maybe take that off. She may or may not survive, and it's going to cost you probably $5,000 or more dollars. And we all agreed. She had a good life. She had a good run. So we put her down. They put her down. And her brother, who had no tumor, but was getting incontinent and getting kind of senile in his old age, he was pooping all over the house. So we all decided it's time to put the dog down. So we put that dog down, and oh my heavens, that was a tough thing. One good thing, we kind of, the whole family came together and we kind of gave the grandkids a lesson on what death means and how sad it is and everything. So those two dogs were put down. Let's see, was there another? Oh, and then just lastly, my youngest daughter, when she was about 12 probably, she had a hamster that she became attached to. And I'm telling you, the whole family became attached to this little hamster. One time a hamster got out and found a hole in the wall. It was in the rafter, in between walls, and my daughter was finally able to coax her out of there, and then all of a sudden she started to act strange, and we captured her by that, but she was back in her cage and was starting to act strange, and then of course died. And oh my heavens, I don't think I had any tears over the hamster, but my wife and my daughter were in tears for days, I think, I remember. But that's a lesson that these kids learn from these pets is hard to. It's great lessons in life they're learning from this. So, okay, so that's 16 minutes. So that has just gone over my 15-minute mark. But anyways, those are the traumatic. The first story is probably the most traumatic experience of my and horrific experience of my life, of my childhood, and then some other pet stories that hopefully you enjoyed. But anyways, we love our pets. But thank you for listening. Bye-bye.